Testing. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. You ready, Dave?
Yep.
And welcome all to the Northwest Party Board Meet the Candidates Night Forum. I want to kind of give you an outline of how this evening is going to go. We want to be considerate of everybody's time. There are packets in front of each chair where you're sitting. First thing that we want to do is I always like to bless any proceedings that we have, that I'm a part of, and I hope we don't have anyone have any issues, but I would like to call Vice Chairwoman Brenda Moore up to the podium to give you a more formal welcome and prayer. While she's coming up, my name is David Greer. I am the chairman of the Northwest Priority Board. And again, thank you so much. This was somewhat hastily pulled together. We were not going to have a Meet the Candidates this year, but I had so many individuals calling me asking for an audience. I felt that, well, if I got that many people that's interested in coming and telling what they are prepared and want to do for the community, let's do this. So, to the best of our ability, we threw it together, and hopefully that it works out and it's appeasing to everyone. So at this time, I'm going to hand the mic over to Vice Chairwoman Brenda Moore.
Good evening. And again, welcome to all of you all. We're happy that you came out. First and foremost, we're happy that you wanted to have a forum, because people need to be informed, and unfortunately many will not be because they don't know where to go to get the information. So we don't want any swags tonight of the election. We just don't. We want people to be informed. So first and foremost, let me thank God, and then we go on. Father God, we want to thank you for the opportunity that allowed us to be able to have a place that we could come and have a forum, Father. We thank you for each and every candidate who came out tonight. We thank you for all those who are in the audience who had a desire to come out and find out what it is that we, the public, need to know about our children, whether it be the city, from the city capacity, or whether it be from the Dayton Public School Board capacity. We're all involved, Father, so I thank you for putting an interest and a desire in the people that are here so that we can learn and grow together. Father, we ask that you bless this food that we're all going to partake of this evening, Father, for the nourishment of our body. Father, I pray that you give each candidate exactly what it is that they desire to instill in the public, what it is that they really want to tell the people that's their platform, so that we can make an informed decision on the day that we go to the election polls to vote. Be with each and every person here, see them safely back home, and we thank you, Lord. In Jesus Christ's holy righteous name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, what we would like to do, and for you, you all, it may be a little bit uncomfortable, but if you don't mind, we would like to invite everybody to the repast first. So, a little refreshment.
Sure, that's
Otherwise,
fine.
if you all are uncomfortable with that, it'd be afterward. But
No.
take about 15, 20 minutes, and then we can start in.
Yeah. Free
with
food
our
is
poll.
good.
Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. We can eat, right?
Yeah. I hope so.
That's all that matters. We can eat too.
All right. Okay, so let's go ahead. Help yourselves.
But before we do that, one other thing we do here at the Northwest Priority Board, when we are starting to have our meetings or whatever event we have, I know there's been a lot of controversy about in our society, in our country, in reference to the national anthem, and not so much the Pledge of Allegiance, but how ones have been showing their homage to our country. I'm not going to get into all the different things that are being said, but I'm going to ask everyone to stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is on the stage. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So as you get your refreshments, we will wait for everyone to get settled, and then we will go into our forum. Thank you all so much.
Feels like you're
really exciting.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready to get started, and the candidates will make their way up to the dais, and you can continue eating, but some housekeeping things that I would like to cover off the top is the restrooms are, you go past the reception desk, and both of them are to the left, and they are both marked, marked for you to know which is which, okay? The format, you've got the packet in front of you. In those handouts, I outline how the format is going to go. There are 3 initial questions that each candidate will be asked to answer, and I will have the candidates come up in no particular order, but the first question is an introductory question that they will introduce themselves and give the feedback based on the content of that question. So after we go through the questions, and there's 3 initial questions, we will ask for questions from individuals off the floor. What I would like for each individual to do who has a question, if you would raise your hand, Brother Akil will bring an index card and a pen to you so you can write your questions down. Now, understand, we've got 11 candidates up here. So we want to maximize the time as best as possible because I don't want to keep y'all out past your curfews. And my days start at 4 o'clock in the morning, so you just know I'm ready to go home. But so we're going to fill our way through here, and there's a time for each question indicated on the handout that I've given you. The first questions are asking you to stick to 3 minutes. Miss Lydia Rose Radcliffe is our timekeeper. Raise your hand, Miss Rose. And she's got the green for go. She's got the yellow for 30 seconds left. And she's got the red for stop and sit down and eat the rest of the food you got. Okay? So we're going to start on this end, and if you will come up, and I will ask the first question and give you the mic. First question being, who are you and why are you running for your respective office?
Oh, here we go.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Brother Reed.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Mohamed Al-Hamdani. I'm running for Dayton Public School. I'm running with the ticket of Reverend William Harris, Karen Wick-Gagnet, and Paul Bradley. Before I start telling you about who I am, I want to recognize a special person in the audience for me. He's smiling, he's shaking his head. Deacon Moreland. Everybody knows him as Reverend, as Rodney Moreland, but Deacon is a special man in my life. We fought together as we fought for busing over into Beaver Creek when I was working for Lee. He taught me a lot about social justice, taught me a lot about fighting for the little guy. And the lessons I learned from him in this community have stayed with me everywhere I went. Thank you for all the work that you do. I'm going to tell you a little story about me. I tell people stories. I don't like to use speeches. It starts with 3 words for me. It starts with the words boy, girl, and window. When my family arrived in America, those were the only 3 words I knew in English. I was 10 years old. My family had come as refugees from Iraq after the first Gulf War. And we arrived broke and broken. We had nothing. This community, this city in America, kept its promise to me. Gave me that American dream. Yet I know for too many of our kids today, that American dream is just too hard to reach. The system that we have in place is just broken. It hasn't worked for too many of us. Jobs are hard to get. This community's had a rough time, and we're on the rebound. But we gotta fix our schools. We have to work hard to get our schools on the right path. And we need good leadership for that. And we hear from other candidates about what's wrong. They seem to always blame other people. Nobody wants to blame the board. They blame teachers and students and parents. They say parents are not involved enough, and maybe that's true. Students are too rowdy, maybe that's true. That the teachers don't understand the kids, and maybe some of that is true too. But there's an underlying issue we don't talk about, which is economic instability in our communities at times, and how hard our parents have to work to make ends meet, and how tough it is for them. So the reason I decided to run is I saw our school district that gave me the start that I have, that made me the attorney that I am today. And I thought my kids would not have the same opportunities I had if they go to this district. I have a 2.5 and a 10-month-old. I want them to go to Dayton Public Schools. I want them to have the same opportunities I had. I want them to succeed in Dayton. I don't want them to go to charter schools or private schools. That's why I'm running for Dayton Public School Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you. One other thing I would like to ask each candidate to do. Please hold the mic as close to your mouth as possible so that we can hear everything that you have to say. Okay? Reverend Harrison.
Good evening, everyone. My name is William Harris. I am, amen. I'm used to holding the mic.
I'm still learning from
I am running for school board with these very fine 3 individuals that you're going to meet. You've already met Mohamed, and I've been in Dayton for over 25 years. I am a husband. I am a father. Both of my sons are graduates of Dayton Public Schools. They graduated from Stivers. A couple years ago, I pastor a church in Hilltop. I minister especially to young people, and I have seen their ups and their downs as they struggle through the school system and struggle in our community. And so I am invested in the community. I'm concerned about our residents, our students. I'm concerned about their livelihood. And I hope that I can be a part of the solution along with my team to make sure that our young people deserve a quality education. I'm a graduate of United Theological Seminary, where I received my doctorate in 2003. I'm a graduate of Howard University School of Divinity, where I received my master's degree. I received my bachelor's of science from Bishop College, in Dallas, Texas, my associate's degree from Montgomery College. So I consider myself an educator. I've served as an adjunct professor at Wright State and at United Theological Seminary. I've been involved with projects in the school. I served on some time ago, we had an organization called Fathers of Parish 2. And in the school district, I've worked in the community. I've coached basketball with young people. I've been around the community. I'm invested in the community, and I want to be a part of the solution. I'm very discouraged when I see the test scores, when I see the state level. I believe that that we can raise the level of reputation, because right now it's deplorable, and I look to make that change by being competent, professional, and willing to give quality leadership along with my team. And so I ask for your support on November the 7th. Vote for this team, not just for us individually, but the whole team, that we can make schools better indeed. Thank you.
That's a tough one to follow. I think each time I get up at one of these things, I'm going to feel a little less nervous, but I'm really not, so bear with me. Thank you for inviting us here to your beautiful neighborhood this evening. It's wonderful to see so many people that are concerned coming out to learn a little bit more about what we have going on our election ballot this season, and I appreciate your consideration and your concern. I am Karen Wick-Gagnet, and I am running along with these three gentlemen next to me as a slate for Dayton Public School Board. I entered the Dayton Public School System in 2002 when my first child started pre-kindergarten at Dayton Public Schools. My last child graduated in 2016. I spent 14 years in the Dayton Public School System. Throughout that tenure, I have volunteered hundreds of hours serving in the capacity of PTA chairperson for 6 years, and involved in the Sealing Foundation, which supports art programs at Stivers School for the Arts. My other business, Coco's Bistro, we host a brunch every year throughout the month of February where we raise funds to support art programs for Stivers School for the Arts. I have a passion for art, not just because of Stivers, but because I believe that within each one of us there is an innate piece or component that is looking for a place to be expressed, whether it's art, whether it's sports, whether it's science, whether it's math, that if we as public institutions can tap into that individuality, that we stand to create successful human beings. So I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to serve in this way. These gentlemen that I have the honor of being on a ballot or a ticket with are true leaders. I think that Dayton Public Schools is lacking. I think that Dayton is on the verge of great growth, but I think that our schools certainly don't reflect that growth. I believe that our school leadership needs organizational structure that starts at the top and that then flows down throughout the organization. I see too much lack of communication, not enough accountability, not enough structure, not enough organization, and our board that we're looking to create would create policy and accountability around creating a vision that supports positive education for all of our kids, and I look forward to sharing with you more as we get into the evening. Thanks so much.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Paul Bradley, and I have the honor of running for Dayton Public School Board with the three individuals that you just heard from. And, you know, it's not that we aren't willing to work with other people, but, you know, we formed this slate because we believe that we need a new clean slate on the Dayton Public School Board to get things done. And we all have our differences of opinions, but the thing I will say is that all four of us look through the same lens of every decision should be made with the best intention of how does this affect our children? How are we moving the needle forward in a positive way? And I'll tell you, if that's your lens, I guarantee all four of us are willing to work with you. I've been in the Dayton region since about 2005 when I came here for college to attend the University of Dayton. And I fell in love with this area. I grew up in Indianapolis. I graduated from the University of Dayton in 2009 and had the honor of working for Senator Sherrod Brown in this region for about 6.5 years. And it was through that over half a decade of service in this community that I really became invested, and I really started to understand some of the challenges that we face here. And it's not something that any one of us can fix. There are no silver bullets, but it's something that we have to look at collaboratively and collectively and say, how do we turn this around? How do we make things better? And when I really look at that and I think about all the pieces that takes, I personally believe that access to quality public education is the best way that we can level the playing field for our kids. And it's not the only way, but I think it is a huge contributing factor that we have to do a better job at. And I think I'm kind of hitting the on-off button. But thank you. And you know, I live in the Oregon district right now with my fiance, and we're getting married in October, so it's a busy fall for us. But you know, when we walk around that neighborhood, and I'm doing my share of the wedding planning, I swear, you can ask her. But when we walk around that neighborhood, we think about raising kids there. We think about keeping our roots there, about being able to walk to Second Street Market and walk downtown and be a part of this community. And for that to be a successful truth, we know that we need to do something to improve this school district. And I can tell you that I'm going to do whatever it takes, and I know the slate is going to do whatever it takes to make that a reality. And I thank you for your time, and I thank you for feeding us today, because not all these priority boards have done that, so we really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you so much for hosting us, Northwest Priority Board. My kids love coming to this rec center because it has 2 diving boards, a high one and a low one, which is better than just a low one. See, that's my daughter right there. She's nodding in affirmation. My name is Jocelyn Rhynard. I am running for Dayton School Board. And the reason why I'm running for Dayton School Board is because I have 4 children in Dayton Public Schools. This is personal for me. I was born and raised in small town Minnesota. My husband and I moved here in 2003. At the time we moved in, we just had a little baby. And we were told that Dayton Public Schools are bad and terrible. You never send your child to Dayton Public Schools. Somehow my son turned 5 really quickly. I still don't remember how it happened. And now he's 14. And we weren't ready to move, and we didn't know what we wanted to do. We looked at different options. We looked at charter schools. And then we found a school, and I toured it. And what I saw inside that school blew me away, and I knew that the myth I had been told about Dayton Public Schools being bad and terrible was that. And we decided to send our kids to Dayton Public Schools and stay in Dayton. Because we've had enough people leave Dayton, and if people keep on leaving, it's never going to get better. We're staying to help make it better. We realized at that point that the words good schools and bad schools were code words. They were code words for a community that has high levels of poverty. They were code words for communities that had been affected by decades of redlining and segregation. And we want to be a part of fixing that. And it starts with our schools. If a school district is failing, the city will fail. Who here is a parent? When you move somewhere, what do you look for? The schools. I want people to move. Wait, what was that? Libraries. Thank you to the library advocate. I want people to say, I am moving to Dayton for the schools, because I know what they can be. But I also think that we need to realign our priorities. Last fall, the board made some difficult decisions, which when I'm on the board, I know I will be facing difficult decisions, and I'm not afraid to face that. But I sat in that board meeting, I go to lots of board meetings, let me tell you. She can also tell you. I sat and I thought, you would not make these decisions about your children. And I realized at that point, we need more parents of Dayton Public School kids on the board making decisions about their children and their children's friends and all the other kids in Dayton Public Schools. I believe in Dayton Public Schools. We are only sending our kids to Dayton Public Schools. My name is Jocelyn Rhynard, and I would be honored to have you vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joelle Jones. Can you hear me? Say a little bit about myself. Joelle Jones, I'm a lifelong resident of Dayton, Ohio. I'm going to tell you a couple things. I'm a graduate of Central State University. I did my master's program at the University of Cincinnati. I did my master's study at the University of Bristol, England. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. I'm a mother of 2 Dayton Public School students. Now let's throw all that away. We've had tons of smart, educated people running Dayton Public Schools, and it's gotten us a second to worst ranking in the entire state of Ohio. That, my friends, is a travesty. I'm running because of my kids. I'm running because of your kids. But let me tell you a story. Last year, when the district was making the tough decision to lay off some paraprofessionals, I go to board meetings, probably not as often as Johnson, but I'm there quite often. And it's 5 o'clock, we get down there, and there's tons of people there. You know, we come out when there's issues that affect us. That doesn't mean they don't matter to us in the beginning. But when something is deep in your heart, you come out and you talk about it. I walk into this meeting, and literally there are hundreds of Dayton Public Schools parents there. Mothers with tiny babies, mothers with toddlers, fathers with 5 and 6-year-olds. You know no one's had dinner. They just gotten there. And they get there to tell their story. And what does our board do? They immediately go into our 90-minute executive session. There was nowhere to sit that day. So I walked to my car to get some air, and I noticed a whole trail of women, some men, walking away. I said, did they come back? And I remember this. A lady had tears in her eyes. It's cold, it's rainy, she has babies, she's standing at the bus stop. She said, no, they haven't come back. They didn't even listen to us. We never got a chance to even speak. People took time out of their homes, didn't feed their children, walked their children to a meeting. And what did our board do? 90 minutes. I'm running because I believe in Dayton Public Schools. I'm running because I used to be a teacher in Dayton Public Schools. I'm running because I was an administrator. I'm running because this is personal to me. These are my children. I eat with them. I shop with them. I dine with them. I worship with them. I am Dayton Public Schools. I'm Joelle Jones, and I'm asking for your vote November 7th. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mario, and I'm running for Dayton Public School Board. Thank you, David, for having this event. It's really important that we get out to the community and be able to share our views. This is an important race. There are 4 seats open, which is an actual majority of the board. And I think that we really need to take a look at the candidates who are running and what they bring to the table and vote in the best interest of students. The reasons why I'm running: I've been involved in the school district for 20 years. The last 8 years I've been at Ruskin Elementary School, 5 years as the Neighborhood School Center Site Coordinator, and I'm going into my 4th year as a tutor with the Miracle Makers After School Program. And what I've come to realize with 8 years of working with kids and families and kids and families and kids and families and teachers is that we need to change the way that we approach how we deliver education. We have been in the same situation in terms of test scores and state evaluation for 20 years. We've changed personnel, we've changed curriculum, we've changed programs, we've built new buildings, we've done pretty much everything physical that we can do, but we have not changed how we deliver education. And what I've learned over the last 8 years of experience in professional development and reading on my own is that kids who are raised in a crisis situation, and that can be poverty, don't know where you're sleeping, don't know where your meal's coming from, the neighbors are arguing all the time, TVs are blaring 24 hours a day, their brains develop differently. There's actually more bruise to the brains, cortisol, which is a kind of an aggressive type of hormone kicks in, and they're just not ready for what we consider to be traditional school. That doesn't mean they can't learn, it just means we need to change the way we deliver the education so that they can adapt to it and that they can actually be successful. So I would want to be the voice that says, let's look at different techniques, let's look at how things are done and see where we can change things so that our kids can actually start to feel successful in what they're doing. The second thing is we need to start teaching or treating our teachers with respect. I have seen way too many programs that get rolled out with very little preparation, and they're handed off to teachers with a half a day's worth of training and go have a good time and have at it, and then at the end of the day, in May, when it's not successful, it's their fault. We need to, as a board, be able to take the time with our programs to make sure that we have everything in place before we start rolling it out to the schools. And the last reason why I'm running is because we need to change the behavior of the board and board demeanor. It has gotten way too contentious and way too mean for us to continue in that way. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joe Lacey, and I too have swam in your facility here at Princeton with my daughter at a birthday party, and it is a nice facility. My daughter, she's on my card. She's a reason why I have run and I am running. I'm an incumbent. I've been on the board for 12 years. And my daughter attends Ruskin Elementary School, and she's in 3rd grade at Ruskin. I believe that our school district, our school board needs the perspective of parents. I think you cannot do wrong by electing parents to your school board. So I believe that kind of perspective shows the interest in this district that you really want. I'm also a volunteer soccer coach, and I've also volunteer tutored at Ruskin and Lincoln. I'm a certified public accountant, and I think that's another perspective that is valuable to your board. Your board makes some very important financial decisions every year with about $500 million, and we need to have someone who has an understanding of the economic realities that our district faces. And economic realities of this community can be very dire. We live in one of the poorest districts in the state of Ohio. I've been a neighborhood volunteer. I've served on the Southeast Priority Board, so I understand and I appreciate the value of the work that this priority board does. I've also served my country in the United States Peace Corps in the South Pacific and the Solomon Islands. I am a Democrat, and I do believe my political affiliation does say something about myself and the values that I hold. I've also been chosen by the mayor to serve on the High Quality Schools Committee, and I thank her for that. The trust to work on one of her committees to try to improve our school district in that way. I believe that we do have a lot of work to do, and I trust that we can get it done together. And I appreciate the chance to work for you for another 4 years. I'm sorry but I have to go pick up my daughter now, and she's at a friend's house, so I'm sorry I can't stay longer with you. I'll leave you with my cards, and my email address is on those cards if you have any questions. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. I appreciate that. The former teacher and the coach, I always like that when they say good evening, everybody say nice and loud right back. Yeah, I'm Jeff Mims, and first of all, I want to thank you for Mr. Greer and the Northwest Party Board for providing this opportunity for us to talk about what we think is very near and dear to our hearts as far as the city of Dayton is concerned. I also want to thank you again for your strong support, this group, for issue 9. You've heard reference a couple of times to the enjoyment that you have in the swimming pool and the diving boards. We have spent a lot of time, a lot of money this year fixing up a lot of our parks as part of our agenda for this year in terms of making sure we create one of those leisure time and recreational time activities for the citizens of Dayton. But I want to go back and talk about who I am, spend some time talking about that. At 2 months old, being born in Clanton, Alabama, I rented a car and brought my parents to Dayton, Ohio. Because I knew I wanted to be a Daytonian. And in terms of being here, having the kind of strong upbringing that I had with so many mentors that helped me throughout my lifetime, in terms of being involved in the Scouts, having great coaches, having usher board, cheer people, choir. I was in the choir for a minute until they found out I couldn't sing. That's why I got on the usher board. The issue in terms of the richness that this city has is one of the reasons why I have continued to stay. And even though I've left a couple of times for a few years as a government relations person for the Higher Education Association and worked in Washington, D.C. for a while, it was always my intent to be here in Dayton. Now, I have a strong record of success in leadership. Going back to being president of the Boy Scouts, squad leader when I was in Vietnam, also the situation being coached on different teams that I was playing on, whether it's baseball or sometimes track. But additionally, I'm probably one of the few people that's been president of the teachers union and then also president of the school board in the same district. And people ask me a lot of times, they just say, well, how do you make those conflictual decisions? I say, well, it's very easy. I always made decisions that were best for the employees and best for the kids. Now I got 30 seconds left? Anyway, well, we got plenty of time to talk about a whole bunch of issues later. But I do want to say clearly, there are a lot of great things happening in Dayton. And we're going to talk about those. The all-American city, most welcoming city, one of the best towns to live in. Those are the kind of things that we all should be applauding for great reasons. And we'll talk about those things here again later on. Because as we talk about what happened 30 years ago in Dayton and how we fix those things now is something I think is very important that you need to hear that. So thank you again for your attention.
Everyone. How's everyone doing? Great. I want to thank the Northwest Priority Board for an opportunity this evening. Thank you for your hospitality. This is home for me. Again, my name is Shenise Turner-Sloss. I am a candidate for City of Dayton Commission. I am a long-standing resident of the City of Dayton. I'm a proud graduate of Dayton Public Schools. Graduated in 2004, received my bachelor's degree in political science from Fisk University. I have a master's degree, thank you, a master's degree in public and general administration from Central Michigan University. I share all that with you to let you know I do have the experience, I do have the education. I used to work for the City of Dayton. I see a lot of my friends and family members here this evening. I worked in the City of Dayton for 8 years as a senior community development specialist And in that capacity, I manage the city's state and federal funds. And needless to say, a lot of the programs that the city of Dayton has and the policies that we currently have in place, there's a void. And the void is that the priority is not of the residents. It is not of our residential neighborhoods. How many people this evening are satisfied with the current conditions in their neighborhoods? That's why I'm running. We have to do a better job. How do we do a better job? We vote differently. Darryl Fairchild and I, your neighborhood team, we want to make the changes you want to see in your community. We need to be impactful. We need to see leadership with vision. We understand the perseverance and the resilience that the city of Dayton have endured for a number of years. So now we need to strive with greatness. We need to strive with new leadership and vision for all of us. We need to make Dayton residents in our residential neighborhoods a priority. I respectfully ask for your vote and your support on Tuesday, November the 7th. Thank you, and we're going to have a conversation this evening.
David Greer and Northwest Priority Board, thank you for your hospitality. As Shenise mentioned, this too is my home. We're the two candidates that live in your Northwest Priority Board. If I wasn't so tired tonight, I would have rolled over here. You know, in 1989, I was starting a new chapter in my life. I was enrolled at United Theological Seminary. I hadn't started yet, and I'd never been on campus. And so I was making my way up to Salem, and I made the mistake that a lot of newbies do. You're looking for an address on Harvard, and you get to that light, and you turn left on Harvard, and then what? You're lost, right? But in '89, as I was driving through that neighborhood, maybe you had that experience back then. It's like, oh my God, look at that house. Oh my God, look at that house. Oh my God, look at that house. Robert Walker was one of my professors there. Larry Wugborn wasn't there yet. He came a little later. But here's my experience now. I've been out knocking the doors. I've met many of you at your homes. They're out here in the community. You see me on my hand cycle. Go through the neighborhood as the leaves come off, and what's your experience like? Oh no, look at that roof. Oh no, look at those gutters. Oh no, look at that paint. I'm running for Dayton City Commission because as Shenise says, what you see and what we know is our residential neighborhoods need work. And we need a clear plan to make it happen. I remember when Tony Capizzi started talking about bringing minor league baseball to Dayton. People thought he was crazy. But he was the champion for it, and eventually he got a plan, and now we have an incredible asset. Same is true with Dr. Michael Irvin. He was one of the early champions for downtown Dayton. He was the champion. In 2010, we had a plan, and 7 years later, you're seeing incredible revitalization downtown. The reality is, right now, we do not have a plan for our residential neighborhoods. The best we can point to is the 2020 plan, which was adopted in 1999. And think about all that's happened in the last 18 years, including the housing bubble and burst and what that's done to our community. We spent $18 million on demolition without a clear master plan of how to spend that million. I was down at the commission meeting recently and I said, we need an analysis of how much it's going to cost to remove blight and revitalize our neighborhoods. And you know what the commission said? 7 years ago, it was going to cost us $25 million. They gave us a 7-year-old number. We all know the numbers for the arcade, don't we? We can round them off our head. $12 million to demolish, 1.5 to stabilize, 100 million to revitalize. We know that like that. For our residential neighborhoods, we don't have that kind of analysis. We need that kind of analysis because we have a great opportunity right now to revitalize our neighborhoods. I'm Darryl Fairchild. I ask for your vote on November 7th.
Stay right there, Darryl. We're going to start back with you. Okay? And this next round of questions I ask that you respect the 2-minute limit. Okay? Because we have to look out for when this facility closes, and we want to put out as much information from you for those who are in the audience as possible. Okay? So the second question is, what is the most crucial issue that you plan to give priority attention to when you are elected into office?
This might surprise you, our residential neighborhoods. And I will be persistent with Shenise Turner-Sloss. This is why we're running together, because 2 votes down in commission are going to be important as we persist till we get a significant plan for our residential neighborhoods. There's some exciting things that are coming along. Maybe you've seen the master plan for the rivers. That's an extension of the downtown plan. But along those rivers are neighborhoods, and they need to be incorporated into that. And I'm proud to say that I'm on the Greater Dayton Premier Management Board, and we have the Choice Neighborhood Project happening. But the problem is we don't know how that fits into a broader overall plan. And until we have that plan, we can't have a budget. We don't know what stakeholders we need around the table. We don't know what resources we need. And when resources are available, we don't know to grab them because we don't know that we necessarily need them. And so until we have that champion and plan in place, we're not going to see clear revitalization. And you know, we have critical needs in our community. The city just released their most recent survey. The majority of people in Dayton don't feel safe in their neighborhoods. Safety is a critical issue. And until we have a plan and start revitalizing our residential neighborhoods, people won't feel safe. Likewise, the majority of people do not believe that Dayton is a good place to raise a family. And we're seeing that in there. They also said that people are likely to leave, or some people are likely to leave the quadrant or the location they're most likely to leave from, downtown Dayton. Because when young millennials have children, they go and look elsewhere to start a family. We need to revitalize our neighborhoods and make them safe, because it's key to attracting people to live in our cities, and it's also key for long-term economic development, because until we clean up our neighborhoods, have strong schools, we're not going to be a site where people want to locate.
Move this right along. As Darryl stated, the priority, the neighborhoods, but not along with our neighborhoods, our residents. Again, we need to make sure that our neighborhoods and our residents are a priority. So how do we do that? Yes, we need a plan, but I'll take it a step further. We need an implementation behind that. We need funding behind that. We need a means of how we designate our federal and state dollars. And under the leadership of Darryl Fairchild and I, we will do just that. With your input, with your recommendations, with your suggestions, we will put our residents at the forefront. We will make sure that we will go in with a block-by-block approach and assess each of our neighborhoods and to identify what structures need to be demolished, what structures we can rehab. What do we need to do to make sure that we address the quality of life in our neighborhoods? We also have to make sure that we have a vision for each and every one of our neighborhoods. And again, that starts with all of our residents. So again, I ask for your vote and your support on November the 7th, Shenise Turner-Sloss.
You know, one of the things that's challenging is that I've always run my campaigns very successfully by talking about myself and talking about my plans and letting my record stand for what I've done. And I have a tremendous record. It's difficult and challenging at this point in time as I look at plans. Dayton Transportation Plan, the Phoenix Plan, the Vinci Plan, Lucon Plan, Renaissance Plan, Greater Dayton Downtown Plan, of course we talked about that. In reference to the arcade is a fixed structure. The neighborhoods are not fixed structures, they change. We were built for 250,000 people 30 years ago. We now currently have a stabilized population of 141,000 people. That's 110,000 homes that are vacant because people left their jobs, lost their jobs. The economy, we were #1 in foreclosure rates and the height of the depression about 8-9 years ago. We also had a situation where we were number one in terms of job losses. We were number, unfortunately, 50th in terms of graduation rates for African American males, and those things all had some effect on that. Right now, we are number one in job growth in the region. Just today, we had another 120 jobs that came to Dayton because of the kinds of things that we're doing in downtown Dayton. The issue that we have to understand as well is that 50% of our budget is generated from the revenues of downtown. 50%. We spend 75% of our total budget in the neighborhoods. And while we have these challenges in terms of sometimes not understanding, we will have to take some blame for that. Because as I look at what we have in terms of one piece of information after the other that validates what's happening downtown, even though no one has, I'm also talking to Joey Williams. See, I was asked to so speak to him as well. So, okay, that was, I got that permission earlier. So, thank you very much, I appreciate it. So in all seriousness, and because this is not something to take lightly, because in order for us to move to the next level in terms of continuing the greatness that we have in Dayton, we have to understand and appreciate where we are. There's not one single person in here, including myself, that's completely happy with what we have in our neighborhoods. As I pledged to do what I did when I was on the school board, it's the same thing I pledged to do as city commissioner, and that is making my community the best it can be as compared to any place else in this nation. And that's been a challenge that I've had, and those who know me and see me work, as I mentor young people, some 7,000 of them in my lifetime, they also know my commitment is to not just work in terms of what we're doing right now, but to work in terms of what we're doing in the future. Because I made a pledge to them to do the best they can, and I would do the best that I could in terms of making this community safe and better. So thank you again, I appreciate that.
If I'm gonna have to hold the mic every time, I'm just gonna start singing. Karaoke time.
So we're going to shift gears and get away from residential development and get back to education of our students. My number one priority, I think, would be to actually challenge the superintendent to start looking at some of the research that's out there talking about how children develop, brain research, and then start identifying strategies that will reach these children where they are. We need to change how we do things. And I think that we need to start planning. It's not going to be a 1 year, 6 months, or even possibly an 18-month. Because once we identify what we need to do, we then need to give teachers an opportunity to come to the same understanding. It is not going to be an easy change. We're all stuck in our ways, and then that's probably not the right language to use, but we all do things the way we do things because it's comfortable, we're used to it, and we want to continue. If we are going to make an absolute culture change on how we approach students, we're going to have to give teachers the opportunity to, number one, understand why, and to see what success looks like when they are able to make the change. Yet from my own experience, I can say that it is not easy taking a child into your house that has come from a chaotic and rowdy household, and then all of a sudden expect them to sit quietly at the table, to use proper grammar, to sit down and want to do an hour of homework. You need to create an environment over time that allows those children to see the success that you want them to see. So my number one priority would be to let's investigate what we need to do and let's develop it in time, over time, so that we can be successful.
Because I don't want you to do more than you think you can. Ms. Jones?
Yes.
While Ms. Jones is coming up, I do want to convey this. I did get a call from Commissioner Williams yesterday, and he requested that Commissioner Mims answer some of the questions for him, because I did send the questions out to them prior to. So that was what Commissioner Mims was alluding to.
Jeff always gotta have the last word. Good evening again, Joelle Jones. The question is whether our most crucial priority, correct? Yes. Okay, so the most crucial priority for me, and I'm sure for all the candidates, is academic proficiency. How do we achieve that? First, before we start talking about plans and things of that nature, we have to restore trust back in public education, not just with the city, but with the students, with the teachers, with the community. That is something that we've lost. The second priority that I want to do and how to make that happen is the intentional, purposeful funding and staffing of the Office of Family and Community Engagement. That office should be the first line of defense for the school district and the first line of information for families and students. It should have a relationship with the Dayton Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Development Partnership. All the new businesses that come in downtown that receive tax abatements for our school system should be partnered within that particular office. We can say what we want to do with Dayton Public Schools, that's great. Dayton Public Schools has spent already $500,000 on stellar academic programs. Let's use those. What are we going to do? Throw them away? Let's get our teachers professional development. Let's show our children that we care. Mostly, let our teachers teach. Let them do what they do best. There are a lot of things that need to happen in Dayton Public Schools. I don't say I have the panacea, but I tell you this, I'm willing to work. In Dayton Public Schools, we cannot forget, is a part of the city of Dayton. So a strong public education means a strong commitment and tie with the city of Dayton. They are connected. You cannot destroy them. You cannot take that away. So whatever happens in City Commission happens in Dayton Public Schools. Thank you so much.
Joelle and I both know that great minds think alike. I also want to ensure that we bring trust back to the district. We need to trust that the board will make sure that the transportation problem that we had last year isn't going to come back again. They leased a whole bunch of new buses and they changed the routes, but something got us to that point, and by assuming that the problem is fixed might mean that the problem happens again. We need to trust that we will support the teachers in their classrooms. We need to trust that the parents can rally behind the teachers. I rallied the parents 2 times this last year. I formed the DPS Concerned Parents Facebook group. We have hundreds of people on that page, and we brought them out in support of the students last November, and we brought them out back in August when the teachers were about to strike. We brought them out in support of the teachers, and we supported the DEA when they said teacher working conditions are student learning conditions. We need to make sure that parents trust their children in the classroom, that they're given the resources that they need. I'm in a lot of meetings, in board meetings, and I'm in the school a lot. I was at an open house, and a teacher pulled me aside, and she said, I know you're running for school board. We need this thing. We need this thing in our classroom. And that's something I'm going to the board to later, trust me. We need to restore the trust of the city of people of Dayton so that they know that when they send their children to Dayton Public Schools, that we will get them to the schools and home again, that we will educate them, that we will give the students the resources they need, and we will support the teachers in everything that they need to do to help those children make and meet the academic requirements that they need to make. And we need to make sure that the parents know we expect more for our children. The teachers need to trust the district and the board that we hold our children to a high standard. Thank you.
Good evening again. I think this is a question that has a pretty broad answer, right? So I think when you look at what is most crucial to DPS, I think the overarching issue is that we need to improve educational outcomes for our students and our kids. And what does that mean? That means a lot of different things. That means understanding the day-to-day lives of what a lot of our kids are facing. A lot of our kids in neighborhoods across state, their first priority in life is not about getting a good education. It just can't be. A lot of our kids have when I think about myself in high school, what was my biggest issue? I was trying to figure out who I was going to take to prom and whether or not I could make a football team. But for a lot of our kids, unfortunately, that's just not the case. That's just not the reality. And we need to understand that. And we need to understand what our teachers are facing every single day, day in and day out. And we need to understand what resources and what type of training do they need to be able to do their jobs effectively. What do we need to put into those schools to make sure that those are safe, effective learning environments for our kids? I think the other big thing that we need to do, and it starts at the top, and I think it is something that we collectively all understand, is that we need a school board that is led with more decorum. You know, right now we have a lot of school board members who are fighting, a lot of school board members who have different agendas. I think at the end of the day, we have to remember our number one priority and our number one agenda is to make sure that our kids are safe and are getting a good education. And what does that mean? That means our responsibility does not end when they graduate. It does not end when that door closes on them. We have to understand that almost 3/4 of our kids aren't going on to graduate from college. And we need to understand what are the other jobs and what are the other realities out there for those students once they graduate. And we need to be preparing them, and they need to understand that literacy, math, education is the key to their success. Thank you.
In and out, in and out. Thank you again. I'm going to go further with this organizational leadership piece because I believe strongly that any strong organization, just like Mr. Greer organized this wonderful event tonight, requires organizational leaders, people with a skill set that have the mindset, the talent, the vision to be able to create policy and metrics around measuring the policy and the success of. So I believe that the organizational leadership is a top-down function, that we need to start with the board. We need to assure that we have a strong board in place to drive that organizational leadership. We need to make sure that we have a superintendent in place that can follow through on the vision that the board sets. We need to view all of these things through a kid-centric vision. Our kids today are faced with many challenges that when we were growing up, were social media. The world is different. The world is big. I think we need to have a pulse on this ever-changing world that our kids are living in. I believe firmly that every school, elementary, high school, grade school, should have at least one guidance counselor and maybe 2 guidance counselors, because I think that our kids face, and especially my kids before I have at home, and a lot of our kids are faced with challenges that we don't understand. And somebody that can direct them, somebody that knows that a kid is suffering because he has some traumatic, he experienced, his neighbor got shot. We need a community. We need community engagement. We need to further our community partnerships so that we can develop opportunities for all of our children. All of our decisions have to be made through what is best for our children and then what is best for the community. Our slate, my slate of 4 candidates, represent all of those leadership qualities that we need to drive this organization forward. I promise you that we will work hard to make Dayton Public Schools a school that you could be proud of. So I'm Karen Wick-Gagnet, and thank you so much for your consideration this evening.
Thank you. As you well know, there's so many critical issues that Dayton Public Schools faces. However, I want to concentrate on the graduation rate. And in order for the graduation rate to go up, we have to deal with truancy. I think that is a very serious issue, and that is one that I'm going to give a lot of time and effort to. I think that we need a comprehensive campaign to deal with truancy. I think we need to talk to our parents, our faith-based groups, and all aspects of the city. I think we need a comprehensive plan. We need billboards, and we need to show how critical it is that our young people attend school. If you're not in the classroom, you can't have a high academic grade, and you cannot graduate. you won't be on top of your game, so you have to be at school. So truancy is a critical issue. We have to get our young people in the classroom on a daily basis, and I want to give my attention to that effort. Thank you.
Everybody's pressing the button. Thank you. Before I answer the question, I want to say I'm disappointed that the only incumbent decided to leave. $500 million, and we can't teach 13,000 kids. $500 million, that's $500 million. We can't teach 13,000 kids. That's rough for me. That's hard for me. If you're good with numbers, you do the math on that. It's close to $40,000 a kid. Also, there are, he mentioned one school that he sends his daughter to, but there are 28 other buildings. Dunbar, Meadowdale, Elmont, the list goes on and on. What about those schools? Who's paying attention to them? So, the one issue I really want to focus on is the third grade guarantee. Third grade reading levels. All of you know that the state has that requirement for us to pass, and they're happy that they increased the grading, the level from an F to a D. Somehow we're supposed to celebrate a D, and they forget the only A they had went to an F. That's not moving forward. It's moving backwards to me. Not moving forward here. Third grade guarantee is important because a lot of you know that the school to prison pipeline begins at third grade. That's rough. To say a kid may be bound to prison because they can't read by third grade. Our district is always paying attention to investment to fix a problem afterwards. They're always intervening. Intervention is all you hear. Well, we'll intervene. Well, we need prevention. We need prevention. Thank you.
Thank you. Because of time constraints, I'm going to need to not ask that last question. I hope you don't mind. We don't want them to be locking the building up and we can't get out. So, but I do have a couple of index cards of questions. You do, Willie? The first question from the audience, and this question is for a person from the slate. How much did your committee pay Burgess and Burgess from Cleveland to run your campaign? Why wasn't a local firm good enough? The last time Burgess was involved with the district, they got 2 no-bid marketing consulting contracts with no performance requirements. Will you pledge not to hire them after the election?
Sure. To be honest with you, we haven't even paid them yet. I'm being honest, we haven't. We have a campaign manager. We do. His name is Uriah Anderson, and he's from Dayton. If you guys remember, Uriah Anderson ran the mayor's campaign. He worked on a couple of other campaigns here locally. He does work for Burgess and Burgess, but they do a lot of work around the state. They're also running the Sinclair levy. They're running the Human Services levy. They've run a bunch of other levies. So for you to insinuate that we hired them because they're out of town is kind of, dirty politics here. They're as local as we are. I think Bill Burgess is in town more than some of you are. For those of you who don't know who Bill Burgess is, you might want to look him up. and the work he's done to help the city. Human Services Levy helps 50,000 members of our community. I am very proud that I have run that campaign before, and I'm very proud to have them. That levy helps some of our most vulnerable members of our community. And so, I'm not sure what they mean if we're, to promise not to hire them or anything else. We can't have a levy for Dayton Public Schools right now, or a failed school system. Nobody's gonna pay more taxes. Are you crazy? We're gonna ask people for more taxes when we have an F-rated school system? People will run us out of town. You know who wants to have a levy? Joe Lacey does. Keeps talking about, I wanna have a levy. We don't. We don't wanna increase taxes. We have $500 million to teach 13,000 students. I'll say that one more time. We don't need more money, we need better leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Most recently, this is for the DPS. Most recently, the Dayton Education Association has reached a unanimous vote of no confidence in Superintendent Ford. As a school board member and your teachers have no faith in their primary leader, what will you do to ensure them that you are listening, and how will you address this vote of no confidence?
Thank you. As of now, our Superintendent Rhonda Core has 2 years left on her contract. The vote of no confidence from the DEA was pretty staggering. I am surprised that there's no repercussions of that have happened so far. But right now, she's our superintendent. Now, the job of a board member is pretty simple, actually. There's a lot of stuff I'd like to change that as a board member you can't change, because we are given 2 tasks. We hire the superintendent and the treasurer, and we set policy and oversee financial decisions of the district. When I'm on the board, I do look forward to evaluating our superintendent, evaluating the progress that she's made. I go to board meetings all the time, and I see the things that they talk about. There's some things that I think are good. There's some things that I think need a lot of improvement. One thing that they've implemented this last year is Dr. Lawley's focus on teacher trainers. I am very much looking forward to see if that yields any results. But when I am on the board, I do look forward to evaluating if our superintendent is somebody who needs to stay, or if she needs to go and we need to find somebody else. I look forward to that, and I thank you for the chance to give me that if I'm on the board. Thank you.
I've got 2 more questions, time for 2 more questions. This is for the City Commission candidates. The City of Dayton forfeited nearly $477,000 in federal funds for housing development and assistance for failing to meet a key deadline. As a commissioner, how will you ensure that this does not happen again, and that the City of Dayton remains on the forefront of completing proper paperwork and ensuring that funds that have an impact on the city are not missed out on?
Great question. Thank you for that question. So as stated, I'm a former City of Dayton employee. I understand the policies and the procedures. That particular program, I worked on. I firsthand know the deadlines. I firsthand know the language that is used to make sure that those deadlines are not met, that are not missed. And so with that, it takes accountability and responsibility. It also takes that you have incompetent people in place. You set the vision, you set the tone, and you make sure that you have those in place that are able to execute the mission of the organization. Now, we heard this evening that decisions come from the top down. Well, under my leadership as well as Darryl Fairchild, we're going to flip it. We want the vision to come from our residents. We want the vision to come from the city staff to make sure that they have the tools and the resources that they need to make sure that we improve the quality of life in the city of Dayton. That entails making sure that we use the funds that we do receive from the state as well as from the federal level, we use them responsibly. We see the impact in our community. I want to feel the morale. I want to know that the money that we are receiving is impactful. I want to know that our leadership is making a difference in our community. We just seen in the recent newspaper, $500,000 was spent on the demolition of a parking lot for the development downtown. Downtown. We just seen, and we congratulate our current leadership for all of their efforts. We really do. We appreciate your service and your commitment. And that's from my heart. But we have to do a better job. And it takes new leadership. We were also just seen in the newspaper, the city of Dayton raised $5 million for the pavilion. And they just recently had to rebid. Can you imagine what we can do with those dollars in the city of Dayton? Can you imagine the lives we can impact in the city of Dayton? Can you imagine the number of structures we can demolish in the city of Dayton? The number of homes we can put back online? And you're absolutely right. At the peak, we were 260,000. We're down to 140,000. That's why we need the dollars even more in our neighborhood. Let's right-size our community. Let's see the impact. One last thing. A couple of days ago, my colleagues and I, and let me share this with you. If you don't have a strong community, you won't have a strong school system. And that's why I personally support Joelle Jones. Because I know that she has the integrity, she has the education, she has the experience. And so Darryl Fairchild and I, we want to be your neighborhood team. We are your neighborhood team. One last thing. A couple of days ago, my colleagues and I, let's go. We were on the east side of Dayton. The east side of Dayton. And you know, I'm talking to all the different residents, introducing myself. Hello, how are you? Nice to meet you. And I ask people when I meet them, please share with me your concerns. What do you want to see in your community? I don't have all the answers. I want to hear your voice. Tell me what you would like to see. Do you know what the gentleman said to me? He said, you see me standing in this food line, don't you? We need leadership that knows our residents, that will put the resources in place to address their concerns. We are suffering. This community is suffering. We have this divisive spirit that the east side is getting more than the west side, and the west side is getting more than the east side. And ain't either side getting nothing. November 7th, vote for your neighborhood team. Vote for your interests. Vote for your family. Vote for the next generations to come. Let's make a change in Dayton. Vote for your neighborhood team. Shenise Turner-Sloss and Darryl Fairchild. Thank you.
Do you have a response to the same question, sir?
Like as much time as she got?
No.
Yo, I think here's a challenge. This is not entertainment. It's not a show. We're not telling jokes to see who could cap somebody. That's elementary. The issues that we're dealing with are extremely, extremely serious. Now, I don't think there's anyone that was more upset with the fact that we lost a potential of $477,000 than the city commissioners in the mayor. No one. And you know, all of you have been involved in businesses and churches and organizations of that nature. Individuals sometimes make mistakes. The individual's no longer with us. Because you have to make issues and deal with those kind of things when those things happen. As we talk about what we're doing, there are millions of more dollars that we've gotten in the last 7 years, especially the last 4 years in the city of Dayton, than we've gotten any time prior to. We've demolished and torn down more houses in the last 3 years than any time in the last history of 30 years. 3,000 homes, old homes, dilapidated homes have been destroyed, and there's green space. And there's a plan with that. It's a green and gold plan in terms of working with that particular issue as well. I don't recall having anyone say or hearing anyone say that things start from the top. We make our decisions based on surveys. And for those who want to stay a little bit of time and take a look at some of these, we have surveys that we've done across this city that give us some outline in terms of what it is we do. We set our priorities based upon what the needs of the people are. My priorities, your priorities are nothing and have no value if they're not priorities that deal with how we make this entire city better. I cannot understand how we have individuals who denigrate downtown. When downtown was so vastly, I don't even say the word for it. But anyway, it was not what we wanted it to be. 25 years ago, the arcade was almost a hole in the wall. And we've done some things with that with external investments. $1 that we invest brings in $100. And all those things happen to make good things happen as far as the community is concerned. There has to be, and someone said, let's have a conversation. We need to have a conversation, not just a one-on-one, a shouting match, or things of that nature, because we need to understand clearly the cause and effects of the things that we're dealing with. So you can see, I'm not talking to you right now, excuse me, I had my, no, I'm sorry, I had,
Please.
I think we got a chairperson up here. That's what I thought. Aren't you chairperson?
Answering the question.
Okay.
Don't worry about that.
Okay, thank you. See, that's the kind of situation that we're trying to deal with, and not how we have situations where, let's see, we can talk to loudness or anything of that nature. We got a serious set of issues here. There are serious successes that we've had in this city, and there are plans to make it even more serious. We have those awards for a reason. All those awards we have are for a reason. Not because we're perfect, but because we're moving faster than any other city in the nation. The All-American City, we're one of 15 in the nation. So, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
And I promise you, this is the very last question.
Sure.
Very.
Can I answer that question on the 477? So the question was around the $477,000
Can Joy Williams come
lost.
back up and welcome the gospel assistance?
The city, that money was earmarked for low economic families to get down payment assistance that could have been used in these neighborhoods to buy homes. So we lost an opportunity. But it's not the only opportunity we lost. You might remember the Dayton Daily News building. We sold that by giving the property and $1 million to the developer. They demolished it. They didn't pay the contractor. And because as an employee, you didn't get the lien off the building. That same employee, I believe, if Jeffrey Mims is right, and I'm surprised you're kind of talking publicly about this, but if you're on the record saying that Aaron Sorrell got fired because he did...
That's a personal issue, I didn't say that.
Okay, so there's an employee. Didn't get a lien off a building in that demolition. Led to a lawsuit. The city had to come back and pay a second time to demolish that building. So we lost $1 million there. We're squandering resources, and we're not on top of it. There's a report on the Lot Links program. Staffer says, we don't know how it's doing, we're not monitoring it. We don't know. We need some accountability down there. In the midst of that demolition of the Dayton Daily News building, they took $210,000 that were earmarked for demolition of houses and had to put into that project. So we don't have priorities on our residential neighborhoods. We need an eye on the ball. We need someone down there who's going to be a champion. We can't afford to squander resources.
For the commissioners, will you attract and encourage immigrants and hurricane victims to move into our good vacant homes? And will you give lot lease buyers a tax break for a few years, like the corporations that get tax breaks? And please limit your response. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As stated, the city of Dayton has been named as an immigrant-friendly city. But along with that name and the recognition that we have been receiving, and I will give credit, we've received a lot of national attention behind that. But that's just a name. It's just an initiative. We're missing policies, programs, funding. We're missing key components to really make the program, to make the initiative worthwhile, to make it impactful in our community. I'll share a short story with you. When I was an employee of the city of Dayton, I was traveling down the steps to the side street of Ludlow. There was a gentleman there with a large suitcase, with a little girl about 2 years old, along with a woman, his wife. And I asked him kindly, I said, "Sir, are you lost? Do you need help with anything?" He said, "Yes, ma'am." Middle Eastern descent. "Yes, ma'am. My family and I relocated to Dayton because we saw on the website that the city of Dayton is immigrant friendly." I'm at a loss for words. Do you have anywhere to go? Do you need any? I don't know where to go. I just came here immediately because of this program that we searched and found. Long story short, I took him upstairs to the 6th floor in the Department of Planning and Community Development. We called every social agency in the city of Dayton. They would not help them. We called Catholic Social Services. They said, "Are they refugees?" "No, ma'am." Well, we can't do anything about it. We can't help them. It took an individual from East End Community Service to open up her personal home to assist this family, along with myself and 2 other co-workers, to make sure that this family had the needs that they deserve. Because of language that said, this flowery language, we're immigrant-friendly city. But we don't have any funding, we don't have any policy, we don't have any program to support this nationally recognized initiative. So we need to do better. Secondly, lot lease. You're absolutely right. We need to give tax abatements to our residents. My husband and I, we live in Southern Dayton View. We maintain 4 vacant lots, not to mention our own lot. We've been through countless lawnmowers, weed whackers, riding lawnmowers. We're continuously picking up trash, everything that you can think of. But where's the city? Invest in your residents, invest in your neighborhoods. Let's see that tax abatement in our residential neighborhoods for those who are taking ownership and for those who are maintaining the neighborhoods. Let's invest in our priority, and let's invest in our residents. Let's make a priority for our residents in our residential neighborhoods. Thank you.
Please, let's give our panel, our candidates, a rousing round of applause.
One question.
Well, did you want, why didn't you write it down?
I tried. I didn't even know the part when I walked in.
What is your question?
So I am a teacher for Dayton Public Schools, and I hear everybody speaking of resources. We don't need any more resources because we have enough. Matter of fact, we have too many. We're over our heads. What we need is to attract and retain good teachers. So it's not that we need more teachers. It's not that we need more resources, academic resources. We need to attract and retain teachers who care about our students. Also, we need
counseling services, drug services. So I just wonder, what was your plan to come into our schools and provide our students with drug services, family planning services, things that they need, not academic stuff, because we have enough of that. We just don't have good teachers, enough good teachers to teach that stuff.
I'll be brief. Mr. Greer, I don't want him to turn me down. Thank you so much for that question. So, like I said, Dayton Public Schools has spent almost $500,000 on resources, and we have that. One of the things we have to do, again, like I said before, is restore trust back in public education. How can we attract and retain high-quality teachers when our district has a perception of being a place of inadequacy, inconsistency, and ineffectiveness? One of the ways, not the only way, guys, let me state this, is again, the Office of Family and Community Engagement, bridging that relationship with the city of Dayton. Our superintendent's vision should not just be for Dayton Public Schools, it should be for the entire city. Our superintendent should be working cohesively with the city commission, with the mayor, drafting a plan not just for Dayton Public Schools, but the entire city. That's how we attract, retain good, high-quality teachers. Dayton Public Schools can no longer afford to work in isolation of this community. It is a part of the community. Each and every one of you are affected by Dayton Public Schools, whether you have a child in the district or not. We have to open our office. We have to be intentional with it. We have to be purposeful with it. I'm not talking about the Office of Public Relations. Please don't get that confused. The Office of Family and Community Engagement should be just that. Thank you.
Same question. I think that's an excellent question. I think we have to talk about the realities of what our teachers are working in. And we know that our teachers can go 15 miles down the road to another community and be making thousands of dollars more too. We need to face that reality. We need to face the reality that we work in a competitive market. We also need to understand that the teachers that we have in Dayton Public Schools are there because they care. They love these kids and they're hardworking, and they are not the enemy. If we understand that, I think we can understand that we need to listen to our teachers as well too. If they say they have the resources they need, then we need to understand which resources are the critical ones, which ones are the ones that aren't as critical. We know there are no silver bullets, and we know that we have a finite amount of funds. So we need to make sure that we're listening to our teachers and say, here are the critical resources, like you say, that you need, and let's make sure that we fully fund those things. The other thing I would say is that, when you talk about all the social services that our students need, we need to be looking at what processes and what type of schools are out there that already do that. And I think you can look just down the road an hour south of Cincinnati, a school like Euler, as a community neighborhood hub, a true community neighborhood hub that has social services right in there. My fiance used to work in that school, and she tells a story about this senior girl who was pretty close to being on track to graduate. And then all of a sudden, she didn't start coming into school. She was missing. Her grades were failing. And they brought her in to see her, my fiance, who was an AmeriCorps college access advisor at the time. And they sat her down. They talked to her. Well, it turned out she just had a kid, and she was trying to figure out, how do I take care of my kid? This is now my biggest priority. So they set her up in the school right there with the doctor, with the pediatrician, and she got the meds. She got onto WIC. She got all the type of services and social services that she needed right there in that school. I love that model. I think that model works for our communities. I think also we have people here from CareSource and social services. We have people here that are pastors in our community, and we have people here who are business leaders in our community who care about what we're doing and how we teach our kids. Thank you.
I cut Commissioner Mims off from responding to that immigrant friendly. Please, brief.
We're an immigrant-friendly city for a reason, and there's a lot of documentation for that. We have been invited, our staff, to a conference in Washington, D.C. to find out how we did some of the things that we're doing. One story does not define the entire program, and you know that as well. One negative incident or discipline with your child does not define that child. So we have to always understand those things and put those things in perspective. In this past situation, I'd like to speak some for Commissioner Joy Williams. Joy Williams, being a banker, being one that is very, very tight with the dollar, was the last person to support Issue 9. And we went over and over again based upon surveys and not having had a tax increase in more than 34 years to take care of the challenges that we have as far as the city of Dayton is concerned. When we agreed to do those things, we put those monies in place to continue along the line of the safety factors that we're dealing with. That's why things happen, again, putting safety in downtown, those things happen. Having an additional 20 police officers in the city is going to make a difference, especially in hot spots in terms of the neighborhood. The roads that we have, every street in Dayton will be repaved and blacktopped over the next 8 years. We have a very strong desire to partner with the school system, which is why we put additional dollars into the preschool education program so that the 80% of the kids who come to Dayton Public Schools, 2 and 3 years behind in their developmental skills, would have a better chance once they hit the classroom door, because it's not just the school's responsibility. We also have put, as we talked about, a bunch of money into recreation, and we deal with those kind of issues as well, because those things are important. The opiate drug situation is another area where some of those dollars have gone, because we put more money into the situation dealing with our fire and EMS services to address those particular issues. Now, that was not an easy decision to make, not just for Commissioner Williams, but for all of us, because no one wants to ask for additional dollars. But again, looking at the fact that you have to have dollars in order to do the kinds of things that this city deserves to improve the quality of life as compared to other cities that are successful, you have to sometimes make those very, very difficult decisions. And that's why we did what we did. Thank you again, I appreciate it.
Again, thank you all for coming. Those in the audience, candidates, I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you for taking your time and coming out. I just got the sign that they're getting ready to lock us all up in here. So, with that being said, thank you so much and good night and be safe going home.